waiting for YouTube to catch up. At the moment, I only see a black screen, so let's hope that it does work.
Maybe it's because it's before 3.
Ah, maybe it's before it's 3 o'clock, but that should work. There we go. Now we have image. Okay, guys, hey, thank you so very much for tuning in to Digital Classroom. Today we have a special episode because this one freaks me out. So let's start with the intro. Okay. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Digital Classroom. Now, in Digital Classroom, we try to do different stuff every time, but we are in, I believe, the 10 plus season or 11 or 12, whatever, but we've done it a few times. And the thing is, it's always difficult to find new stuff to do during the digital classrooms. And there are some stuff that I don't want to do live, and there is some stuff that I love to do live. For example, with model photography, I don't have any problems doing that live. A presentation, I have no problem at all doing that live for the very simple reason with models, I can coach the model. We have something in front of us that actually moves and I can actually direct. And of course, with a presentation, the only thing that can go wrong is, for example, a slide that doesn't work or a joke that goes wrong. But there's nothing really terrifying. Today, yeah, that's a different story. Today, I am terrified. I am literally terrified. And why? It's not because we're going to shoot a shark or a lion. I wish. Today, we're going to shoot something much, much worse. We're going to choose a newborn. Yeah. And why is that much worse than, for example, something else? Well, I'm of course a little bit kidding. The reason I'm terrified is one, it's a live shoot, and two, with children, you never know what's going to happen. Now, a lot of you guys know me from teaching workshops and doing model photography or fashion or celebrities or street and travel photography. But of course, during the week, we also run a normal commercial photo studio. And that means that sometimes we do families or we do children. And families is not my favorite thing to do, but it's still okay, you know. But children is always a little bit different. And why? Very simple. A child you can't coach very well for the very simple reason it's a newborn, right? So they don't know what left or right is. They don't even speak English. And we're in the Netherlands, so I officially speak Dutch, of course. And the thing is, you can set up your lighting perfect. You can set up the perfect set. But if there's a child that only wants to cry or wants to move or throw around stuff, you are screwed, literally, because you have to take that picture. So today, I just hope I don't make a fool out of myself and it will work out fine. We have Amalin here, that's the new daughter from Nadine, our stylist and of course model, you all know her, right? And during the last digital classroom, we said, what do you guys want me to do next digital classroom? One of the things was actually do a newborn photo. And I thought, yeah, sure, we can do that. And then when we go offline, I would say to Annie, are you nuts? I'm not going to do that. And I will probably, and Nadine probably would have said no. And the problem for me was that during the live broadcast, Nadine actually was watching and said, yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you so very much, Anouk. So let's hope I'm not ruining my career today. Now, I'm just kidding. So what can you do to prepare for something like this? The first thing, of course, you have to make sure that you know that you have a proper setup. So let me just switch over for the setup that we're using. That's camera 2. So I've set up just a red cloth, some materials, and Nadine, of course, helped out with this. Actually, it was her idea. The red was my idea, and the rest she put in. And a little crown. We're not going to know exactly up until the moment that we shoot what we're going to do with it. It can that we move it around and that we shoot some different images, but that's it. The thing that I have to take into account today is very simple. How long will Malin stay silent or relaxed? Now, because it's a live shoot, we don't use any alcohol or any other stuff that will. I'm just kidding, of course. But that's the problem with child photography. So if you are used to model photography and you set everything up before the model is on the set, that's great. But if you're the kind of photographer that is like, hey, let's just put the model there, let's put the lighting there, and we'll see what happens, that's not going to run with children because children have a very short attention span. So make sure that you set up your lighting, make sure that you don't have to meter the light, because it could be that I take one shot, she starts to cry, and that's it, it's over. And then you better make sure that that one shot is at least something that you can deliver to your client. Of course, you can take some more shots, but take your time. Okay, so if there are any questions in between just let me know, and in a week we'll cut in, of course, during the live broadcast. I do have an immense headache, so I might be a little bit slowish with certain things, but just bear through with me. Good morning, California, too. I hope you guys are okay over there. Yeah, we follow everything on the news, and let's hope that it doesn't get worse. So, no, it's not going to be chewy. It's, as I already explained, somebody else. So let me try to show you something else that's really cool. Now, you know that during the workshops, I use Cascable to use my tethering solution, and I want to show you something that's really cool. Now, when we use Cascable, Cascable runs on both the iPad and on the desktop. With the newer version, you can sync the two perfectly, and the desktop version is great. The thing is that I mostly use the iPad version, but there was always this one step that I didn't close, and the one step was the importing into the other stuff that I use, Adobe. So with the latest update, as you can see under here, you now have the option for photos in Lightroom. So just, I don't have a, let me see, I don't have a pointer on my iPad. But as you can see on the left side, you can see camera storage A7R5 on this iPad, photos, a Lightroom. And you can see tethering at location and then apps photos. Now the apps photos means that it now is able to upload everything that I shoot to the Photos app from Apple. And this is great because Lightroom can actually import everything that you upload into Photos into Lightroom. And that means that now when I'm done with my photo shoot, and we're going to do that today too, I'm going to stop my photo shoot. I'm going to open up Lightroom, and Lightroom starts to sync from Photos. And at that point, all my photos are in my Lightroom catalog and also, of course, on the desktop. And that means that now during digital classrooms, I can not only show you the tethering and the whole process and edit on the iPad, I can now literally, during a commercial break, upload all the images automatically via the Adobe Cloud, Creative Cloud, of course, into my Lightroom on the desktop and do the editing there. This is a huge advantage over, for example, just shooting something and staying on your iPad. Do make sure that if you add this option and you are on the road and you don't have unlimited data, that of course you tell a Lightroom to not sync on cellular. So only sync on your Wi-Fi. Because otherwise it can be really expensive because one file is like 60 megabytes. So the first setup, we're going to use only Malin, right? Malin. I have to translate that in English. So we're going to use Malin only. And the next set after that, we're going to use actually something else. We're going to use Nadine and Malin in a very nice setting. Now, the whole idea for today is to show you two different lighting setups with Nadine and Malin, but one for Malin alone. Now, this lighting setup is actually pretty simple. Let me just change over so you can see the high cam. If you see the high cam, we're using a Giotto. Oh, sorry, let me switch over to main camera again so you can see it in the large setting. So we're using the Giotto Quickie, the Quickie with a grid. And the reason we're using that one is because it really focuses the light. And in this case, I like to have to focus on the light. The light is a little bit more harsh. And that also means that you get nicer shadows. A little bit harsher shadows are always cool for these kinds of shots. And do remember, although we're shooting a newborn, it doesn't have to be flat light. Because the easiest thing to do, of course, is make a white backdrop, put in something white with nice flowers, put the baby in a white cloth, shoot it, overexpose it a little bit, and instant art. We don't want to go that way, that's easy. We want to go a little bit further into the technique and creating more shadows. Now, this is also a risk that I take because at the moment you are working with shadows and you're working with a child, the child moves. So that means that you have to shoot fast. Make sure that you have a strobe that has a fast flash duration. So shooting children with continuous lighting is a great option, but do use a faster shutter speed. Unless, of course, you have a lot of alcohol and you can keep your... That's, again, a kidding. So let's go up to the set. Annemiek, are you ready to take over from me?
Of course.
Okay. So, yeah. There's Annemiek. So we're going to switch over to my picture-in-picture small and transition. And, of course, we're going to go to the set. So let's switch over to... Annemiek will do the rest.
Of course.
You are the best.
No, you are.
Ah, thank you. Just wait, Nadine. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to sit down, of course, to make sure that I'm in the lower position. Now, there are a few things you have to realize. Like with children, using strobes is a risk because as soon as the strobe fires, you will get this big oomph. And it could be that a child is literally just going like, what the hell's going on? And it's going like, wah! And screaming. And at that point, the shoot is over. Sometimes children don't respond at all. They just lay there and they just go like, I'm done and shoot me. So that's fine too. Annemiek, is it okay with the lighting? Ah, okay. So the first thing I want to do is before I actually have Malin on the set is very simple, just shoot it. And I want to make sure that everything looks nice and fine. I think I'm going to shoot it like this. So I'm going to focus. I'm shooting on f8 ISO 200, 125th. We have a little crown on the side. And when I look at the image, I go like, yeah, this looks pretty okay. I like it. I like that the crown is just a little bit behind. Maybe we want to move the crown a little bit forward. I like the reds. I like those little ropes. I like the flower there. And I think it shines nice. I think when we put Malin inside there, we create a nice scene. But because I'm still in doubt about the crown, I'm still going to use a little bit of time to just change the set. Because as soon as the child is here, Malin, I have to shoot it right away and it has to be perfect. So let's just change this maybe a little bit here. Let's see if this works. And of course, everybody wants a princess, Nadine just said. There we go. This looks awesome. I really like this. And now the only thing I have to do is coach Nadine and Malin how to sit, how to lay. You can do a few things. I can lay her on her back, but then I have to shoot from the top. And we actually decided that it would be better if she just lay her down and just make sure that she tilted up her head. So it could be that Nadine has to be behind her. I have to Photoshop her out, but maybe, if I'm lucky, she can just lay Malin down and just hope that if she stands behind me, that Malin will look up. I will take one shot, and that would be the shot. And let's be honest, if you shoot children and newborn, how many shots do you really need? Do you need one, or do you need a million? With a model, we need a few shots, but per set, I only try to get one kick-ass shot and two great shots. So that's 3 shots with a model shoot. With a newborn shot, I actually prefer to have the right shot right away, and then we can move on. Because the longer I keep shooting, the more tired Malin will get, the more she will start to cry, the more she is going like, I don't want this anymore. And then, as soon as you get that tipping point, you're done, because then it's over. You can't get her to relax anymore, and they're overstimulated. So, let's get Malin in. Nadine, are you ready? Oh, that looks awesome. There we go, look at that. Hé? Kijk eens. Dat is leuk. Ja, dat is leuk. Oh, het is een hond, hè? Dat is Chewy. Nadine is now sitting very close to me and Chewy doesn't like that. Perfect, let's try one from a little bit higher or a little bit lower. This is also nice. Okay, I think we got it, Nadine. So if you want to get ready for the next set. Hi. Nice. Chewy, it's okay. Okay, so let's go to the computer and let's see what we can do. Oh, that looks nice. Okay, let's go back to my main camera for now. And to me. Okay, picture in picture large. Okay, so what I'm now gonna try to do is I'm gonna press done. Now I have these images over here. Now I will disconnect my camera for now. Go here, and of course, because we set everything up correctly, I hope, all the images are now in my Photos app. And that means when I open up Lightroom, it should actually start importing all those photos. And there we go. And this is great because now I don't have to drag all my photos over. I don't have to do anything with backups because everything is now uploaded into the Creative Cloud. Now, because we're now streaming and of course, because we are doing a live shoot, this can be a little bit slow. So let's just hope that with the uploads, it's okay. So we have 19 pending. We have fast internet, so 18. Okay, in between, of course, we want to thank our sponsors. And one of the sponsors that has been with us for many, many years is, of course, BenQ. So I want to show you a little commercial of the monitor that I'm using. That's the BenQ 32-inch. They do have new monitors out now, a great 27-inch, and I highly recommend checking them out. Now, if you are in the European Union, give me an email, or drop me an email, and I will have a 10% discount for everybody that wants to buy a BenQ monitor. We do have limited supply of those codes, so make sure that you email me as soon as you can. The reason we're choosing BenQ is actually a few reasons. I'm big on color calibrations and on making sure that everything looks the best way possible. And when you buy the BenQ monitors, you have hardware calibration inside the monitor. That means that it's faster and it's more accurate. But most of all, what they do really well is they don't use a built-in calibrator. They use a separate calibrator. That means that you can always make sure that your calibration is on par. Because, believe it or not, the calibration tool doesn't work for your life long. They have a certain lifespan. And by being able to change over the calibration tool, you always have a great monitor. So the 32-inch is the one I'm using. If you want a 10% discount code in the European Union, just drop me an email. We're going to go quickly to a commercial because the uploading is now 9 pending. Looking forward to it. See you again after the break. Okay, did you spot in the video the one thing that I really like? Guarantee. Did you see the A4 or letter where it shows you the calibration? So the gamma curve, the triangle, the grayscaling. With a lot of monitors, they will tell you it's calibrated. Look at this paper. And a lot of people buy those monitors and they go like, yeah, I bought this monitor because it's calibrated, right? I have this paper here. BenQ does it right. It's a guarantee. It's not calibrated. If you get your monitor, of course it's set up nicely, but you still have to calibrate. And please remember this, when you buy a monitor and it tells you it's calibrated, it's not. It's impossible. For the very simple reason, every computer, every graphics driver is different. So make sure you get a proper calibration tool, for example, for Calibrite, and then calibrate your monitor. Okay, so we have our images in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch OBS to my other screen, and I'm going to go for the desktop transition. There we go. And I have everything now in Lightroom Mobile, as you can see. And this is awesome. This is not Lightroom Mobile, but Lightroom on the desktop. And the only thing I now have to do is just go through my images and which one do I like best. So this one is too dark, too dark. I like this one. I only need one. Oh, this one is cool. This one is also nice. So I like this one. And in all honesty, I think this one is cool. I would have liked her to look a little bit more towards, oh, there we go. A little bit more towards me, but that's okay. And of course, normally we shoot a little bit more images, of course, because now with the digital classroom, we have to do it a little bit more faster. I am going to open up the shadow slightly here. I'm going to lower the highlights. And just lower the highlights a little bit more. There we go. Normally with light meters, I'm very accurate and I don't try to change anything. In this case, I had my camera set up slightly wrong, as you can see here. So that's my mistake, won't happen again. So I do have to correct it. Okay, let's say that I like this setting and I want to do some Photoshop work with it. After the next setup, we are going to dive into Photoshop and I'm going to show you some nice effects that you can add to your photos to make them stand out just a little bit more. Nina, could you check if Nadine is ready for the next set? So overall, I think the nice thing about this kinds of stuff is that you can literally just look at your images and go like, okay, what do I like about it? So in this case, I like the whole setting. I like the reds. I think we need to crop it. In this case, the same thing. We're going to lower the highlights. I'm going to raise the shadows. Maybe add some contrast and a slight exposure. I have to be honest, when I did the light metering, I expected at that point that she was be laying on her back. So that means that I metered it literally on the cube. And because we switched it over, the light is very close to the model, and that means that I was just half a stop off, and that's what I'm actually correcting now. So I'm lowering the highlights, and because I'm lowering the highlights, I have to open up the exposure and the shadow slightly. But hey, that's, you know what, it can happen, right? As long as you can save it, it's okay. Okay, sharpness is great. There's nothing wrong with it. That's all. I always check my sharpness before I go into Photoshop. Now, the thing that you need to do with an image like this isn't that much. You can just very quickly change some stuff and add, for example, a nice vignette, boost the color slightly, change the color temperature, and create something that's a little bit more artsy. But before we do that, because it is a newborn shoot, I do want to do the next set first. So I am promising you guys that we are going to do the retouching, but we're going to do that at the end of the broadcast. So I'm going to switch over to my main camera again. There we go. There we go. Okay. Am I doing this right? Yes. Okay, Anouk, are you ready to take over again?
Yes, of course. Julie also ready?
Nadine is ready?
Yes.
Even kijken. Let's reconnect the camera. Oh, kun je even de camera aan en uitzetten?
Nina, wil je de batterijen van de camera even controleren? Ja, en deze.
Okay, let's reconnect.
Het kan zo in één keer afgelopen zijn, hè?
Okay, we're searching for the camera. Anouk, did you turn it on again?
Ja.
Are you ah, there it is. Cool. Okay. Switch over. Everything here is working. Great. Now, for the next setup, I'm not going to ask Nadine yet on the set, because as mentioned before, we have to make sure that Malin, of course, stays nice and easy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm first going to set up my lighting. Now, in this case, I'm using the big lantern from Giotto. The first setup I want to do is very flat lighting. We know that this is the image that I'm going to save. In other words, if everything else fails, we at least have this image. Because for the next one, I want to freak out a little bit more. I want to use a strip light. I want to make sure that that strip light, of course, catches the lights of my model. And I want to maybe use the flash banner to just open up some shadows. Now, with the lantern, I have to make sure that the light is hitting the model from both sides and, of course, the backdrop. So I'm going to raise the lantern slightly towards here. I want to make sure that I know which channel it is on. So let me see. It's on channel C, so let's change the set channel for now. Let's change that to channel A. There we go. Now, to make sure that I, of course, get a lot of light back, because this is the flat lighting setup, I'm using also a reflector on that side. Now, at this point, it's still black. So let's change that over to silver. And when we're using silver, you get just a nice fill-in. So, my main light source, I'm going to create a slight Rembrandt effect. It's not really Rembrandt, it's more from the side, the classical lighting. I'm going to make sure that my model stands here. So I have this really big light source close to my model, so the light falloff will be really fast. The reason I have to do this is because of the wall there. So I don't like this, for a very simple reason. Let me explain. We have something in photography called the inverse square law. Light falls off over the distance. And that means that if I place my light really close to my model, it falls off immediately. So this side will be black. My reflector is over there, so it doesn't do anything because I need distance. Now, because I'm using flat lighting, it doesn't really matter how far away I place my lighting. I shouldn't place it too far away because at that point it becomes really ugly, but I can move it further away. So, although it doesn't look nice on the video, I am going to move the wall. That's the nice thing about movable walls. If you, by the way, want to know how we created those beautiful moving walls, we have a video on Calibrite 1 where we exactly explain everything that's going on in our studio. So make sure you check that out on Calibrite 1. Okay, I think this looks nice. Nadine is going to stand there. The light is going to hit my reflector. It's going to bounce back. We have enough light on our backdrop because with the lantern we have, of course, an opacity on the side. So that means that the light doesn't only travel forward like with a normal softbox, but it also spreads out the light to the side. And the cool thing about this lantern is normally when you see those lanterns, they have these like balls. And that's nice, but most of those are just aimed like this, so aiming down. This one is a front that's flat, and that means that we can also use it from the sides. First thing I have to do is meter the light before I get my model on the set. You already hear in the back that she isn't happy with me at the moment, but hey, who is? So I'm just going to guesstimate that she's going to stand on the red dot. That's not the guesstimate, you know, we put it there for a reason. And we have f8 on ISO 200. Now that's nice to work with. So we have 8 on this side, and I'm going to meter on this side. And we have 2.0. So f8, 2.0. Now when we go from f8 to 2.0, what do we actually mean? f8 to 5.6 is one step. To 4, 2.8. So in essence, it doesn't really do anything. So we have to make sure that or this light is further away. So let's try that. Or of course, the reflector is closer. So let's do that also. Oh, don't destroy it. Just move it. So Nadine is going to stand here. I want to make sure that the reflector is not in the frame, but it's just lighting my model enough. Let's move that around. Let's meter. That's 5.67. That's okay. We can change that. And then when I do that side, 2.03. Great. So I moved it, and that's almost 3/4 of a stop extra, because that one I have to raise 1/3. So that's great, because now I know that I get a nice fill-in, but very, very low. Remember your dynamic range. If you close down 4.5 to 5 stops, it will be black. If you open up 3 stops, it will be pure white. So this will just give me a very, very slight hint of a kicker. It won't be 100% black, but it definitely won't be 100% lit. And I hope that just gives me enough three-dimensionality for a great shot. So, without further ado, Nadine, are you ready, my dear? So I have to go to channel A. Ooh, and I do have to check the settings for now, very quickly. It's on 417. Okay, so manual 417. Okay, and it's actually very, very simple. Aim at my model and take the shot. It's nothing spectacular, it's just a nice shot. You see that the reflector just opens it up very slightly. Now, of course, we can shoot from a slightly lower angle. And with f8, a lot is sharp, so why not? Now, I do have to do some Photoshop work later. Or maybe, Nadine, can you look at me? We can do some close-ups. And of course, you can always move around your model. You can also shoot it in, and we loves it, portrait mode. I hate it. Nadine, can you look towards the light? Malin. Hey, that's nice. Look at me. Maylene. Yeah, there we go. That's nice. Okay. That's cool. Okay, so let's say that we have the shots that we want. I really like this, but I want more spectacular shots, of course. So can you relax a little bit? Let's first take out the reflector. Let's take out the big softbox. And let's bring in something else. That's the way to keep the quiet. In a week you have to do that with me tonight. Helps with my headache. Okay, so strip lights are awesome because you can use a strip light like this, but I like to use them like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to light the backdrop and I'm going to ask Nadine to do one step forward in this case. There we go, that's already enough. So let's see, I want to create nice three-dimensionality. So I want my light on the backdrop to be lower and on my model to be higher. So I'm going to aim it like this. Slightly in the front. Perfect, let's remove the trigger from that one. And change that over. Now we're using external triggers because that's for the light meter. The commander from G-Koto of course triggers the strobes and I can change all the settings. But to use the light meter, we're using the external triggers. That's the only reason. Because I have a radio in my trigger that works with photics and the triggers are from photics. Okay, let's meter the light for now. This is always the scary part, of course, for the model. Oh, sorry, thought it didn't work. 5.63. Okay, 5.63, so that means we have to add 2 extra clicks for F8. And in this case, I want F8 because I want to make sure that I see my model and, of course, Maylin in focus. Let's try this. Okay. Now this is a totally different lighting setup, much more contrasty, and that's why we always have the flash bender as a backup. Yeah. So the flash bender we're going to use on this side, and I'm going to aim it slightly down to make sure that from the back I hit both the model and the baby. The baby. Yeah, let's make sure that everything is on. Let's get it on the right channel. Channel B. Maybe add a little bit of lens flare. There we go. Now the second one is a little bit like cooking. I don't know yet what I'm going to do. Maybe I'm going to add it a little bit more, maybe something less. Oh, I really like this. That's nice. Now let's say you want slightly more light on the backdrop, because of course we have these beautiful click backdrops. In that case, I'm going to use my strip light, and I'm going to ask my model to move one step back. I'm going to aim it at my backdrop, and I'm moving it this way. So I'm using that inverse square law to just balance the light slightly between the backdrop and my model. There we go. I should remeter, but let me guesstimate. I think this is okay. It shouldn't be a lot on the backdrop, just a little bit. Nice, love it. And here I can go lower, of course. I can always clone out my flash bender or move around my models. Can you move Maylin a little bit closer to your shoulder? Oh, look at that. Okay, now she doesn't catch any light, so there we go. Now I don't care about the backdrop anymore, it's just getting the shot. And now when you got this, start to move your flash. Because of course now the backdrop won't be lit anymore by the strip. So you get a black backdrop, but you get much nicer, softer light on your models. And don't care about the shadows at the moment. Opening up slightly to get some more overexposed look. Oh, that's nice. Melon, look at here. Look at me. There we go. Okay, final ones. That's nice. Cool. That's the one. Okay, one from a very low angle. And as long as it will, I continue because now we got, I know this is the last one. So now I'm daring to shoot more. And this is also the lighting setup that works nice if you shoot more, because you can use your contrast. And she's not responding to the strobe, so I'm fine. Okay, don't touch her nose. There we go. Great, thank you so very much, Nadine. So let's go back to the computer. And let's see if we have something that's usable. Of course we have. Oh, that looks nice. Okay, down close. Let's open up Lightroom. And we'll start importing. Great. Now, as you can see, Lightroom is importing the photos, so in between, I'm going to tell you something else. Of course. Now, as you know, when you shoot tethered, you need special cables. And we recently released our brand new, and yes, they're back. They're, again, red. So, yeah, we always had red cables for IQ wire, and then we changed them over to black because certain people wanted black cables for example, product photography. And nowadays, they actually prefer the reds again. So yeah, we don't have any problems with that. We just created a red. And the thing with the new cables is they are now supporting 10 Gs. And the cool thing is, they are the same price. So in other words, you get 10 G for the same price that you get our older cables. And of course, they're still available in 5, 10, and 15 meters without any extensions. So we have boosters inside. And what you will now find actually is that in the 5 meters we have 1 booster, in the 10 meters we have 3 boosters, I believe, and in the 15 meters 4 boosters, right?
One more.
So we have 1 more booster, including in the 5 now. And when you buy the 10 and 15 meters from our web shop in Europe, you will actually get a free cable block. So you can actually mount it really nice to your camera. And we have a new protection system, but you can find anything about that online. What do I have more to tell? Yes. Very soon, in about 2 weeks, we have our photo fair. And photo fair is one of those events that I really like in the Netherlands. And why do I like photo fair? It's not like a normal event. It's more where you can take pictures. There's agility with dogs. You have a lot of cosplayers, fire breathers. You have Vikings. And you have a lot of workshops in different tents. So you can choose your workshop that you like. I'm teaching 4 workshops that weekend. So 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. And with us, it's going to be about color. Color evokes emotion. But this year, we're also going to mix colors. So we're going to bring gels. And we're going to use only colored lights. Also to create white light. How is that awesome, right? Because if you combine red, green, and blue, you get white light. So we're going to combine everything together and create stunning shots. We do have some seats left because it's still 2 weeks out, so make sure that you book your seat for the photo fair. And if you just email me, we have some entries, or we have some tickets available, but you have to email me for that. And there's, of course, also a little bit of a challenge there. You have to watch the video, just drop me an email for the video, and you have to answer some questions. But we're going to do that over the email if you want, because that's only for the Dutch people. So we're not going to dive into that today. Let me see. Another thing that's really important for us is, of course, our YouTube channel. We would really like you guys to subscribe to our YouTube channel because that helps with the algorithm and we can create more content that way. So make sure you do that. And one more video and then we're going to do the retouching. Hey guys, Frank here. Welcome in our studio. Today we're working on a great set with zebras. Anyway, if you want to be updated on everything that we do concerning tutorials and new videos, of course, new products, or maybe interesting workshops in your area, or if you just love to be inspired, well, subscribe to our newsletter. I will leave the link here, or whatever media we're using. So follow that link. We will have a Dutch one and an English one. They're totally new. So if you're already subscribed to our newsletter, do it again because the old one we won't be using anymore. Now, like you guys, we hate spam. So that means that we don't send out the newsletter unless we have something really interesting to tell you guys. And as mentioned before, every newsletter has an inspirational tip or a little video. So make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. And the link, well, you find them anywhere, somewhere there, or maybe down below the video. Anyway, wherever the link is, click it and subscribe. Thank you so very much. See you again. Bye, guys. Okay, and another thing that I want to point out is our Patreon. Now, Patreon is a website online where you can follow your favorite content creators and, in essence, give them money for in exchange for content. Now, what we do with Patreon is slightly different. You have to subscribe via Patreon, of course, and then we're going to guide you to our Facebook group. And it's a pretty active group. Almost every day there's somebody that's posts something. It's a smaller group, so that means that you know the people pretty fast. And the nice thing is they all help each other. And every month you can send in your images, and I will do a proper video review of those images if you're in the upper tier. So, and the upper tiers aren't that expensive. We start with $1 a month, and I believe the upper tiers are, I believe, $10 a month. And you get a full video every month. And the cool thing is, even if you only have the $1 Patreon, you still see all the videos. So in other words, it's not your image, but you still get all the information. And those videos are often like 30 minutes long, sometimes 45 minutes, and I share a lot of tips about retouching. We go a little bit deeper even than the Digital Classroom series. And of course, especially in this period of time, you help out us enormously because, well, all companies are hit, of course, by the economic situation, including us. And by helping us with Patreon, well, and the algorithm, of course, on YouTube, you really help us out. So let's switch over to my picture-in-picture large for the desktop because all the images are now in. That's why I had to do a little bit more of the commercial talk. Sorry for that. Okay, as you can see here, let's start with going from the back to the front. So which image do I like? This one, really nice. Oh, this one is cool. Look at the face of Malin and Nadine. And that's the kicker from the back. Now you get it, right? That's why we put the flash bender in the back. It's my safekeeping. Plus, it gives me an accent light. And because I know that Malin and Nadine will be turning around, one will be looking one side, one will be looking the other one. If you balance them nicely, and don't use gels in this case. Normally with a model, I would use a gel to create that nice lens flare and that mood in the image. In this case, we're not going to use any gels for the very simple reason. Otherwise, Malin would be blue or red or green or whatever. So we're not going to do that. Okay, so I also like this one. And from the more flat images, let's see. I don't like the flat ones. Oh, this one. This one is nice. And you can always combine images, right? If you have images where you go like, one is nice and the other one isn't, you can always get two images and just create one from them. That's the nice thing about Photoshop. We're going to go for star rating. Let me see. So I have this one. Do I still like this one? No. So let's give. Oh, one moment. Of course. There we go. Let's just dive into Photoshop for some of these images, especially when I want to take stuff out. So let's do this one. And let's go edit into Photoshop. Now, in all honesty, I normally only use Lightroom Classic. So I have to figure out a little bit how this works. This is not the first time I'm using it, but one of the first times. Let's just go into Photoshop. There we go. And it's almost the same, you know what? It's when you're used to Lightroom Classic, the new Lightroom looks a little bit different. And there we go. Okay, I have to do one thing, by the way, in between. Sorry. Let's just do that very quickly now. In this tutorial, we're actually going to show you that you can make great images with very, very simple tools. What to think about a tungsten light bulb. The LED panel. A ring light. A standard flashlight. The Fresnel. The Westcott ice light. Smartphones. A loom cube. The chandelier. Christmas lights. We call them light snakes over here. This is one of the most creative lighting videos I ever created. I'm very enthusiastic about it. It's available now via our website. See the links. Okay, sorry, I had to change something. Okay, Shift Command E to go into Photoshop from Lightroom. And at that point, oh, I have to go into Lightroom, of course. Shift Command E. So opening in Photoshop. Now, the thing is with lighting, as you can see in the trailer that I just showed you, it's all about your creativity. Now, a lot of people go like, oh, I don't have expensive lighting, or I can't do this, I can't do that because I don't have strobes. As you saw in the trailer, you can use literally like a loom cube or your phone or a flashlight or Christmas lighting. Everything can be used in a creative way to create great images. So don't let that stop you. Okay, let's look at this shot. The first thing, of course, that we want to do is take out all the junk on the side. So in this case, I'm just going to create a nice lasso tool, and we're just going to ask Photoshop to do a content-aware fill. It doesn't need to be generative fill in this case because, hey, well, it does. So let's do generative fill. Now, because I don't know what I want to do, I'm just going to put a point in there. And let's see what generative fill does. I do find over time that generative fill does a great job with extending backdrops and creating a little bit more of that easy in your workflow. So you don't have to think about, do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? You just shoot. And if something goes wrong, well, you can always fix that later on. And I'm not a big fan of fixing stuff later in Photoshop, but as you can see here, everything is there. The lens flare is there. The lighting setup was there. So if it changes is to that, I'm fine with it. You know, it looks the same. All the lighting is correct. So why not? Now, in all honesty, I think in this case, the composition is off. So we're going to do a crop. And that means that I'm actually going to crop slightly from the top and just move it around here. And I'm going to use my generative fill. Now with model photography, I'm a photographer that really likes to shoot straight into camera the right way. With babies, newborns, pets, forget about it. I'm just going to shoot, and if I have a great image, I will fix it later in Photoshop. And this is something that you won't hear me say a lot. I will fix this later in Photoshop. I will do that with jump photography, motion, and for example with those bubbles with smoke when a model turns around, and I will do it with newborns and pets for the very simple reason you never know where they're going to turn. So zoom out a little bit more and you can always move it around. Now in all honesty, I already like the shot as it is, but I always want to make sure that we get a nice look in our images. Now there are two software packages that I love to use. The first one, of course, and on my website, by the way, there's a nice discount page. So let me just overlay that for you guys very quickly. It's called Discount. So let me just very quickly. So when you go to frankdorov.com/discounts, you can actually find a lot of discounts, including for a Luminar. So the first program I want to show you is actually not a Luminar, but Boris FX. Now, Boris FX is a really cool package because it includes a lot of stuff, including, like, for example, lens flares, particles, atmospherical effects, smoke. But the way that I like to use it is for the film looks. And the film looks are awesome. You guys are going to love this. So let's open up in Boris FX. Now, Boris FX works pretty simple, but it is pretty complicated too. So let me just walk you through it. What you see over here is the so-called layers. Every time you add something, like for example, a lighting effect, let's go for the lighting effects. Let's go, for example, for a lens flare. Now, in this case, we already have lens flare in here, but let's say I want to enhance that. So I can place my lens flare here. I can make it smaller or bigger, of course. Let's place it slightly out of the frame. I like what it does here, but I don't like the outer brightness. So let's just change the outer brightness. There we go. You can edit more or less. Yes, I like this. It just gives a little bit of extra mood to the shot. I think it's a little bit too bright. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the lens flare. I'm not going to worry about the color at the moment. You can always change that later. Oh, I like this. It just gives me a nice, softer glow on my image. So that's cool. Okay, now you can change this anywhere you want. In this case, I'm just going to place it slightly out of the frame. Again, I'm not adding anything. This was already here. I just cropped it, and that's when I lost a little bit of my strobe. So I'm just adding it back in. The lighting is there. Everything works. For me, that's the big thing. I don't believe in just adding light somewhere where there wasn't any light, because it doesn't make any sense. You don't see the light on the face of the model. You don't see the light on the shoulders. It just doesn't make sense. So make sure that when you are adding light sources in Photoshop, that you already have them in the set. This is also how I do my cosplay photography. I already have the story in my head, and I'm going to shoot it. We have the smoke there. We have all the colors there. Everything is fitting. And in the end, it could very well be that I just cut out my model, remove the smoke, remove all the lighting, and just start adding that in Photoshop. But the lighting hitting the model was from those strobes. So the only thing I have to realize is this red and this blue. So make sure that in Photoshop, when I take out my red and blue strobes, I put new red and blue strobes in, or lights, for example, in the corridor of a spaceship. Think before you shoot, and then when you shoot, make sure that everything fits together. And then in Lightroom or in Photoshop, of course, you can create stunning composites that look absolutely real and convincing. Now in this case, let's lower the opacity slightly because I don't want to overpower it. When you press the lighting bolt, you can literally see the effect going on and off. Now I'm going to add a new layer in Boris. And the new layer, and look at this, what they all have, like particle illusions, render, stylize, customs, graduates, and tints. So you can do duotones, you can do whatever, I don't know what they're all called. I just love them. And what I use mostly is FilmLab. And then with FilmLab, you have a lot of options. What I like is the film stocks. Now, I don't know how you guys are, but when I started with photography, I started, of course, with analog photography because I'm 54 now. And analog photography at that point was the only photography that was there, right? And I still remember that the first time I bought a smartphone with a built-in I think it was 0.5 megapixels. The salesman told me, "Sir, you don't need a professional camera anymore. This is it." And I was just looking at him going like, "Do you know that my professional camera," I have to laugh about it now, "is 8 megapixels and this is only 0.5. Now look at where we are today. Most of the video cameras that you see during Digital Classroom are outperformed by my iPhone. Can you imagine that? In the dark, the iPhone performs better than professional cameras. I have to add that my professional cameras are about 10 years old at the moment. So, in all fairness, the new cameras will do a lot better. But hey, iPhones are great for that. And of course, Androids too. So, I'm going to go to film stocks and I'm going to find something that I like for this shot. Like, for example, I like to open up it slightly and I want to mess around slightly with the color. Look at this. This is nice, but for me, a little bit too undersaturated. This is over the top, so I'm not going to do that. This would be fitting for Nadine and me, but I think we're going to go for a little bit more nice. Look at this. This is cool. So I really like this. I do find that the shadows can be slightly brighter. So let's open up those shadows. And you can just do that with the curves, as you can see here. Now there's slightly too much red in it for me, so let's go for my reds. And as you can see here, you can change it. And this is too subtle, so let's go for this one. There we go. Nice. Add some blue to cool it down. Nice. You can always look before and after. Yeah, this is cool. Okay, press apply. Now, in all honesty, for me, this is how I would edit that shot. And it's slightly different than the original one, but hey, why not, right? Okay, I'm not going to save this one, of course. So don't save. Let's go for the other one. And let's find one that's slightly darker. Let's do this one. Command Shift E, go into Photoshop. Let me see if there are any questions, by the way, in between, because I now have all my screens on top of each other. Okay, no questions. Great. Only Jan says it looks like a classical painting a while ago. Yes, that was actually where we were aiming for. So, nice. I love that everything is so dark here. So a black backdrop with just some light behind her. Great. In this case, we're going to freak out slightly more with Boris FX. But first, I want to make sure that my backdrop is correct. So let's take the lasso tool. Let's take out my stand. And of course here. There we go. Again, I'm going to use first content aware. There we go. That's good enough. Flatten image. Oh, sorry. Select, deselect. Now I already have my lens flare there, so I want to enhance it. But with this image, maybe we want something more. Let me first, just to make sure, check if we can just open up the shadows. Yeah, there's more than enough room. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I know that my next step will take away some of the shadows, because I'm going to dive into Luminar. I'm going to use one of the presets that I created. There we go. So I know that my presets is going to crush my blacks, and that's why I'm just opening up the blacks. And this is one part that in your workflow you will find this out very quickly. Like, okay, I love this preset, but it always just closes down the shadows. Okay, just open up the shadows slightly when you go into Photoshop. In the end, if the end result is great, it doesn't matter how you get there. My personal opinion is try to get as much as possible straight into the camera. But if you need something else later on, be my guest. It's about the end result, but getting there as fast as possible. Okay, first composition-wise. Composition-wise, okay, but not good enough. So let's move her slightly to the side. There we go. I'm not following exactly the rule of thirds, but I like this. Yeah, there we go. Create and generative expand. So it's going to extend my backdrop. I hope you guys also like the retouching part. That's something that we didn't do a lot in the last few years, but I got a lot of questions about it, so I was going like, yeah, let's do that again. Okay, nice. Now I always flatten my image when I know that something is right. Some people say that's bad to do, but in all honesty, sometimes I just lose track, and my workflow is pretty fast. I try to do maybe 5 to 10 minutes each shot, and then when I see all these layers and I have to do a filter on a selection, I just lose track. So I always flatten my layers. Now in this case, we're going to use Luminar because I want to show you all the plugins that I absolutely love. So Luminar Neo is my favorite go-to software. The reason is actually pretty simple. The first thing is you can use presets. And in all honesty, and I'm always totally honest with you guys, I think the presets are too slow. Because I have a lot of presets in there and I want to work. I want to be fast. And as you can see here, I can press a preset and it just keeps loading, and there it is. But if I hover over the other ones, I don't see anything. It just has to open up all the presets before I can see them. This is the only thing about Neo that I would love to change. Now, in this case, I'm not going to use a preset because, hey, that's easy, right? And we don't like easy. So let's go for discard edits. Let's go for tools. Now, when you follow software, a lot of people email me like, hey Frank, I don't understand Lightroom. Just follow everything in the order that you find it. It's the most simple thing to do, and it's often also the only reason why it's designed that way. Follow it from the top to the bottom, and it's easy. So let's just do that together. So do we want to enhance something? No. Do we want noiseless? No. Do we want super sharp? No, because we don't need it. Essentials, develop. Do we need develop? I don't know. Let's see what smart contrast does. Oh, that looks really nice. So let's keep that in. We can lower the highlights, don't need it. We can open up the shadows. And as you remember, I did that in Photoshop, so we don't need it now anymore. So let's keep that to 0. Black and whites, no. Do we need curves? In this case, no. Color, no. Sharpness, noise reduction, etc. So develop is done. After that, you can do erase. We don't need that too. Structure, that's interesting. If you want to make something look sharper and more enhanced, you use this, the boost. Now, in this case, I don't want to use it for the very simple reason I'm shooting a newborn and I don't want it overly sharp, so I'm not going to use that. Color. Now, this is getting interesting. With color, you can use, of course, your saturation and your vibrance, but you can also remove a color cast or go to HSL. Now, HSL, I have to explain. You hear me going a lot about calibration that every color has three coordinates, an X, a Y, and a big Y. U, saturation, and luminance. You remember those, right? H, S, L, U, saturation, luminance. And that's exactly the same that you see here. The only thing is you have to realize that in real life, nature, sorry, not nature, how we perceive color, we only see three colors, red, green, and blue. This is also how Lightroom and Photoshop works. You have your layers, red, green, and blue. Now, in the color triangle, if you draw a line between your primary colors, red, green, and blue, through your white point, which is your calibration point, in most cases 6500 degrees Kelvin, you end up at the secondary color. And secondary colors are cyan, magenta, and yellow. So when we combine colors, we're always talking about primary colors, red, green, and blue, secondary colors, cyan, magenta, and yellow. Now, sometimes when you mix paints, they call primary colors different, but this is how we work in the digital domain. Now, the moment you look at this can be confusing because we have a lot more options here. And this is because they actually choose colors that are impacting real images. So our primary and secondary colors are great, but they don't really impact in the points that we want. And that's why Lightroom actually, for example, also include orange or yellow for the skin, for the hairs, or cyan, which is of course a secondary color. But how about purple? Purple could be magenta, but magenta is under there. So you see they choose a few colors extra to make sure that we can literally hit every spot that we want. In this case, let's change, for example, the hue of red. As you can see here, you can see that in the reds. Now, of course, we don't want that. Now, there's one cool trick that you can do. You can change your saturation, of course, and make it more oomph, like this, but then it just jumps out and you go like, oh, I don't really like that. Double click and it goes to 0. So let's try that with luminance. What you have to remember is that you can manipulate the saturation of a color in two different ways. You can change the saturation or the vibrance, and you can change the luminance. Now, when we look at a printer, you know that the printer uses cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, and that's black. The key means that the lower the key, the more saturated the color. So if you put more black in a color, it becomes more saturated, or we think it's more saturated. The cool thing about that is if you bump the saturation, let me show you that, you can clip your color channels very, very easily. If you look here, here it's okay, but over here you can already see that we're clipping our color channels. So when we put it back in 0, you can immediately see there's much more detail. And it just jumps out way too much. It's like, hey, I'm red, look at me. We don't want that. So let's go for luminance. Now, as mentioned before, when you change the brightness of a color, or the luminance, or the key, you will make a color more saturated or more muddy. Let's try that. So let's lower, there we go, look at this. But it always works two ways. So go for saturation. And now, as you can see, I keep all my detail. And look at that. Now it really jumps out at red. Boom. On the lips, nah, not so much. So let's just tone it down and play together with luminance. Those two should always be used in conjunction with each other. I hope I pronounced that correctly. You can always fake, you can always, of course, take the lips out with a mask. But for now, let's leave it that way. Okay, we're going to do saturation for the reds slightly. There we go. Okay, is there any purple in the shot? No, because sometimes that can give you a really nice look. You can use U-shift, but in this case, why should we? It looks great. Black and white, we don't want any black and white. Details, now you can enhance the smaller details, you can enhance medium details or large details. Let me very quickly show you how that works. Large details, no. Middle details, no. And small details, no. And just reset it here. Denoise, we don't need it. Vignetting, we don't need it. Relighting, nah, not in this case. Color transfer, not magic light, not dramatic, we don't need everything. Mood, we do need. But mood we're going to do at the end. Hey Frank, you said follow the lines. Yeah, accept that one. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that the skin is nice and even. So I'm going to run a skin filter, and I'm going to do that on 100%. Now, as you can see here, that already makes a huge difference. So before and after, before and after. Now, you can, of course, do masking because I don't like it on our baby. So let's do erase and let's take it out here. There we go. I'm done doing it really sloppy now, but you get the idea. Of course, you can also do face light. Now, in this case, the face is okay, but you can always add some lighting. It finds the two faces, as you can see here. Now, there is some software out there that does automatically portraits, like Envoto and some other options. In all honesty, if you do events and you shoot like a gazillion images and you want to do it really fast with AI, yeah, go for it. They also approached me, and I really like the software, but I like to have total control over what I do. So I still use AI, of course, for skin selection. I still use AI for extending my backdrops, but I don't like the idea personally to just show software like, hey, I shot an event, here are 100 images, and let's go get something to drink, and when I'm back, everything is done. No. But the face lighting, that's something that can come in really handy because sometimes you are just slightly off, and then the face lighting just makes the difference. Okay, so skin, okay, body, I'm never going to use that, but you can change the body shapes. And underneath, you can use super contrast. You can use your highlights contrast, for example, and then create something with, if you have slightly too much highlights, you can get them out here, as you can see here. And you can balance that nicely. There we go. You can do your mid-tone contrast, but in this case we don't need that, and shadow contrast. You just want to open up the shadow slightly with the shadows contrast. There we go. And you can balance that any way you want. This is what I really like about Neo. They think about it as photographers and editors and not as just software. And I really like that. So let's go for the edits, because this is the cool part about Neo. If you go into edits, you can see exactly what I did. So I use some high contrast, I use some face, and I use some skin. Now the reason I'm showing you this is because here is one of the powers of Neo. If I go back to tools and I look at the face of the model and go like, oh, it should be a little bit more soft. I can literally go into skin and I can do it again. Now, of course, this is way over the top, but you get the idea, right? And let's just mask that again. And let's say brush, erase, gonna take it out of mail-in. And there we go. Great edits. So now I'm happy with my shot. Let's go for mood. And why do I mood at the last? For me, mood is literally the mood maker. But mood is the coloring. And a lot of people will use mood just to give it a slight tint. For me, I use it a little bit more aggressive because this is for my film pack. What I did with Boris FX, this is what I'm now going to do with mood. So I'm going to do the amount at 50%. That's where I start. And I can always build it up from 0 to hero, but let's start from 0. Sorry, from 50. Let's start with cinematic toning. I like the blue in the back. Oh, this is really nice. Gives much more depth to the image. Let's go for creative. No, I don't like those raised blacks. This one is really nice. Let's lower the contrast. Let's lower the amount. Let's add a slight saturation boost. There we go. Looks really cool. And this is before, after. It's not a lot, you know. And I think with photography, you don't have to do a lot to make something jump out. Mostly, the smaller details are just perfect. So let's press apply. And the nice thing about Neo, Boris doesn't do this. I will show you how Boris works in a second. But if you want to do Neo again, so let's say we have 5 of those images and we want to make sure that all those images have the same look. You can just literally go into Filter or Photoshop and just run a Neo again. And it will do exactly the same preset and it will just do everything automatically. It does take a few seconds, but it's faster than going into Neo, running the preset and then going back into Photoshop. The thing is that you have to take care of is if you have a vignetting in Neo, make sure that the model is at the same space. And this happened to me a few times where I just run my preset with a very aggressive vignette, and I just looked at the image and I was going like, what's going on? I couldn't put my finger on it, but the whole lighting was wrong. And then I went into Neo, look, yeah, I got a vignette in a really small space. It's weird. Okay, so let's go into Boris FX now. Oh, you see, it starts in automatic mode. This was a mistake, by the way, but hey, now you can see that it works. You can also see that it takes a long time because it now has to do all the processing in the back. There we go. Okay. edit, undo. So let's dive into Boris FX for some nice lens flares. And again, the lens flare is already there. Now with Boris FX, it's cool because you can't do it from Photoshop, but you can do it in Boris FX. Just press yes, and there you go. See? In this case, of course, we don't want to. So let's delete, and let's delete this one too. Let's delete the whole layer. Why not? Okay. So in this case, what I want to do is, I think, a more aggressive lens flare. I think that's cool. So let's lower this. Let's place the lens flare here. In this case, I do want the inner lights, but I want something a little bit more catchy. Ooh, that's nice. No, that's nice. If you can make it into white, let's. Sometimes that works. Let me see. The rays, hotspots. There we go. Okay. Let's do the outer color. Okay, there we go. Okay, now that we both have them, let's go for some other ones, because I didn't like it. As soon as you start changing the color, sometimes it just falls down. And again, I'm just looking for the lens flare that I like. I can change everything later on as soon as I have them. Oh, this is nice, but the outside color isn't what I want. So let's place that one here, and I can change everything with the lens flare here. As you can see here, there's an extra holder, and that's where you can change the lens flare. So let's put it over here. So it's very, it isn't obnoxious, you know. Sometimes the lens flares can be really obnoxious. So let's see, like for example, if it goes over her face, or maybe like this, I don't like that. But if you just place it slightly here, it does create an extra mood to the shot, I think, because it looks more real. Okay. So again, before and after, it's very subtle, but it just opens up the shot. I don't need anything else, but just because it's cool, I want to show you something. So let's go for filters, and let's go for our search, and let's go for smoke. I just want to show you this. It doesn't make any sense for this shot, but it's still cool. Let's go for smoke and fog. And for example, you can do stuff like this. Isn't that awesome? But the coolest thing is, when you go here, you can do random seed. It's like a movie. You can just look like, oh, I like this or this. And then, of course, you can also normally, oh, this one I can't, but normally you can also move it around on the screen. If you have a world, oh, here we go, you can do it. So you could do the scale, just a little bit, for example. You can do the density. I have a lot of that stuff in there. Okay, but we don't want smoke. So let's go edit and do. I think I messed up. It doesn't matter. Let's go for our lens flare again. Which one did I choose? We're not going to save it anyway, so let's not waste any more time. There we go. But I just wanted to show you also what we do with the software. Cool. Now, there's one software package that is, I used it in the past a lot, and that's actually for skin retouching, and that's called image normal portraiture. But over the years, of course, things change, and also with what I use. So if I want to retouch an image now and I really need skin, there's one extra plugin that I would love to show you guys. Let me just open up this shot. Shift Command E. And as soon as we're in Photoshop, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to show you the filter. It's called Neo. Oh, sorry, not Neo, but Aperty. Now, Aperty is the same family from Skylum. So in other words, you have AI, Photo AI, you have Neo, and of course, you now have Aperty. If you're mainly a portrait photographer or fashion like me, Aperte is actually the one that I would highly recommend. Now, Neo is more aimed at the casual photographer, landscape, fashion, portraiture, weddings, events. Neo does everything. But with most software that does everything, it does everything great, but it doesn't do everything wow and great. Oh, perfect. And this is the one that actually does skin retouching really well. Now, I have to be honest, during streaming, we have a lot of problems with skin retouching because it just doesn't work one way or another. So I hope now it works. Um, you have several options in Neo and the same kind of options you have in Aperte. So we're just going to follow the line. First, of course, people. Yeah, people. We have two people in there. You can do everything with the eyes. And this is the part that I always skip because I don't want that. I don't want to change the eyes. I don't want to change anything about my model. The model is as it is. Where it becomes interesting is actually here by skin blemishes. So blemishes removal, let's put it on full blast so you can see it on YouTube because the compression always takes away a lot of this stuff. Ah, there we go. And now, as you can see here, before and after, it already takes away the blemishes, but you can also, of course, do skin smoothing. And if I do this on 100%, it's way more aggressive, as you can see here. And as you can see, it also dictates that the Malin, or in other words, a baby, gets a Malin gets less smoothness than Nadine. Isn't that cool? So this is much faster than, for example, Neo. And in all honesty, they both are great. But for skin work, this is awesome. And they have something else, and this is so cool. If you go here under your light sources, you can actually place light sources in your set. So for example, if I want my light source here, let me remove this one, sorry. So this one is active, so let's open that one up. Okay, for example, move this light source. Now I'm not going to use it as white light, as you can imagine. I'm going to do light customization, and I'm going to do texture. I'm going to do, for example, shutters. I can change the scale of the shutters and the amount. So a little bit less, a little bit more. And for example, I can make those in different colors. So for example, I can create red on my model. As you can see here, it just creates a nice extra mood. Let's get another one. And let's make that one, for example, bluish. And light customization. And for this one, let's do a pattern with strips and a texture that is tree shadow. Why not? But it gets more interesting, of course, as soon as you start adding more lights. Now, in my case, I don't want too much light for the very simple reason you don't want to overdo it. But it is pretty cool, as you can see here. So let's just lower that slightly. And add another one. Texture. Let's do greenery. There you go. Now, over the top, of course, but as you can see, you can literally just move around and just play with your lights. Isn't that cool? Yeah. As you can see, it creates some interesting stuff. Okay, let's do cancel for now. Let's switch back to my main camera. Oh, I have to go to the dentist. Good luck, Rolf. If you have to go to the dentist. Okay, there we go. Let's go for my main. Oh, it's already on the main camera. So today we did some photo shoots with Malin. I'm really bad with names. Malin and Nadine. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Digital Classroom. It was, of course, a lot shorter because we have to work fast. And with model photography, we can move around much more and shoot more images. Today, I hope what you got from it is one, of course, the workflow in Cascable has hugely improved by adding photos to your saved locations. Because now, as you can see, I am working on my iPad. As you can see here, the iPad is over here, and my laptop is of course also running OBS, but it just uploads everything into Lightroom, and it went pretty fast, right? We needed one commercial of 2 or 3 minutes and everything was already on the computer. In normal situations, it doesn't really matter how long it takes, because as soon as I'm done with the photo shoot, I'm going home. As soon as I'm home, it starts uploading, and the moment I have my shoes off and I'm having my drink, sitting down, everything is already synced up. And this means that you can now have several locations and several backups within one software. So Cascable on the Sandbox, in Photos, on Cloud, and you can of course use an external hard drive. And this is the part that I love about Cascable. It thinks about everything for backups, so it thinks like a photographer. Overall, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have to shoot babies or newborns, always think about one thing. Watch this episode of Digital Classroom, because I was very lucky today. Malin did very well. She didn't cry. And overall, I was terrified for today. And I think we pulled it off, right, Anouk?
You did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do we need to do anything else?
Just the photo fair.
Just the photo fair again? Okay, let me do the photo fair again. I already did the photo fair, but let's do it again.
And next digital classroom will probably on July 9th.
Okay, July 9th will be the next digital classroom. And this one, on my YouTube page, you can find the interview with Kitan for photo fair, and it's on our YouTube page. It's in Dutch, so if you're in the Netherlands, Photo Fair is of course a Dutch event. Make sure that you go to the video and see our interview. It's really interesting, and he's a lot of cool things to say about photography and his way of teaching. He's also a teacher, so yeah, good one. So it's going to be fun at Photo Fair. Anything else in a week, or did I cover everything?
That's okay.
Yeah, I covered everything.
You did.
Awesome. Then I can take some aspirins for my headache. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope to see you again next time. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, because it really helps out. And of course, hit the like and bell notification button. But most of all, tell other people about our channel so we can grow. And if you want a 10% discount on your BenQ monitors and you're in the European Union, just drop me an email and I will give you the coupon code for the 10% discount. BenQ monitors, in my opinion, price quality, absolutely the best. The gear I used, by the way, today, you can find on our website. I forgot that totally. If I go for my shop overlay. So we are the distributor. I have to be totally honest with it, of course, and you guys know it. We are the distributor for both Gicoto, Rogue, the flash bender that I used, the strip lights that I used, and of course the strobes, but also click backdrops. And the material I'm using today is actually the Pro Fabric. And Pro Fabric photographs a little bit like those old nice canvases. So IQ Wire, of course, is also one of our brands. So if you are interested in the gear that I use during the photo shoots, make sure you check out our web shop, because there you can find everything. Rest for me, only to say thank you so very much for watching, guys. See you again